Good afternoon, everybody. I am Arnaud de BRESSON, the CEO of Paris EUROPLACE. Thank you to all of you who are here today, physically or through live stream, which enables our international guests to participate remotely to our Paris EUROPLACE annual International Financial Forum. In the context of the global sanitary crisis, the EU 27 has proven its unity to decide strong measures to accelerate the economic recovery. Europe is back, and Paris is in the front. The Paris Financial Center is even more mobilized to accompany corporates as well as the households to overcome that crisis and accelerate its action on its two big priorities. First, to accelerate the digitalization and the development of the fintech. Second, position Paris as a leading international financial center in the sustainable finance. That's what we will discuss today. Thanks to all our sponsors. I'm very glad to welcome Augustin de ROMANET, Chairman and CEO ADP Group, Chair of Paris EUROPLACE. Augustin, cher Augustin, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Dear guests, chairpersons, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. This year, our International Financial Forum is taking place in a particular context and a hybrid mode, but we are happy to host over 1,400 participants, which is a 25 increase from last year, and 300 are in attendance in Paris, and a big majority have joined us online. Thanks to all our international friends who are participating today on remote access. I would like to particularly thank Christine Lagarde, the President of the European Central Bank, Bruno Le Maire, the Minister of Economy, Finance and Recovery, François Villeroy-de-Galhau, the Governor of Banque de France, and the Chairman of the French and European Financial Market Regulation Authorities, Robert Ophel and Stephen Mayer, for having accepted our invitation. Today, I would like to convey two main messages. The first one is a message about the vitality of the Paris marketplace. The public authorities and financial institutions and firms have worked relentlessly to support corporations through the crisis and are now joining forces to develop strong ways of strengthening the leadership of Paris in post-Brexit Europe. The second message is about Europe. The EU 27 has met the crisis challenges in the context of the actions of the European Central Bank and the new recovery instrument, Next Generation EU, that was presented very recently by President von der Leyen. Europe is back. That's a good timing for international investors to come back to Europe. As far as the Paris marketplace is concerned, I wish first to commend the French Prime Minister for his announcement about the reduction in corporate income tax to 25% in 2022. In the financial circumstances of budgetary fiscal deficit, it's an important achievement. It's a long-standing pledge, and it has been kept along with the reduction in production taxes. This is, for me, a further evidence of the attractiveness strategy pursued by the French government. Furthermore, we shall be attentive to remarks and announcements this day from Mr. Le Maire, particularly as far the recovery plan, the 2021 finance bill, and the current enforcement of the PAC law are concerned. The collective efforts made in Paris since the outbreak of the crisis have been exemplary. In an emergency, all the components of the financial marketplace, banking, insurance, asset management, private equity, successfully worked with the public authorities to quickly supply cash to companies of all sizes and give them the relief needed. In France, 120 billion euros in loans were granted by French banks to 630,000 companies, part of that being backed by the state, while insurance companies contributed to the Solidarity Fund as well as investment funds to finance businesses. At the same time, we prepared solutions designed to fortify the equity of companies and accelerate the developments of our pan-European stock exchange Euronext, which is now involved in a new project aimed at joining forces with the Milan Stock Exchange. Jean Lemierre, the chairman of BNP Paribas, and Stéphane Boujnah, the chairman and CEO of Euronext, will address this in the second session this afternoon. As a result, we have demonstrated that the Paris marketplace is together efficient and effective. But the toughest challenge lies ahead. Social, digital, and regional divides have now become more acute. Technological innovations and the energy transition require both structural change in our ways of operating and a faster pace of investments. We have 4 priority actions as follows. The first one is to foster long-term savings and direct them towards the financing of corporates. 100 billion euros in additional savings has been accrued in France. Across Europe, the total amount is 350 billion excess of savings related to investment per year. These savings must be used to financially support companies, including SMEs, as well as sustainable development. The Corporate Issuers Committee of Paris EUROPLACE, which is chaired by Xavier Gire, EDF's Senior Executive Vice President in charge of finance, has already offered several solutions, and Xavier will speak about this in our second session. The recent launching by BPI France of a new private equity fund dedicated to households to invest in the financing of SMEs is a very positive initiative. I think most of you will be very interested to understand how it's possible to make this initiative compatible with MiFID. And I hope that perhaps Robert Hoffel will be in position to explain us how the IMF did authorize this innovation, which is for me very, very interesting. The second priority is to consolidate our investor community and speed up the actions of the Paris marketplace in the field of environmental and social finance. This is the work that is done by our Institutional Investors Committee, which is chaired by Valérie Baudson, a member of the Executive Committee of Amundi, which emphasizes the social dimension of investments, as well as by the Paris EUROPLACE dedicated entity Finance for Tomorrow, chaired by Thierry Déo, which is CEO of Meridiam, who is CEO of Meridiam, which is pushing the developments of environmental finance. Finance for Tomorrow has just published a new roadmap to underline the necessity of a just transition, to minimize the social impact of the transition to a low-carbon economy, and make recommendations on the new methodologies and the new financial instruments to be developed to maximize a positive impact, more especially on the creation of new green jobs. The third priority is to accelerate innovation and the development of new technologies across the Paris marketplace. Whether financial or technological innovation will play a decisive role in the recovery. And we do have leading-edge industrial players. I would like to thank the speakers of our last panel discussion, particularly former Minister Fleur Pellerin and Jacques Aschenbroich, the chairman of Valeo, as well as the players of the payment industry for organizing the special session this afternoon on the necessary acceleration of payments system in Europe. This gives me the opportunity to highlight the role of the global cluster called Finance Innovation, which is chaired by Bernard Guénier, and contributes to accelerating the development of fintechs and financial innovation across the Paris marketplace. Our last priority action consists in further strengthening the ecosystem of the Paris marketplace in the financing of infrastructures. Our international forum last Monday was an opportunity to demonstrate that Paris is home for leading global players in energy, environmental services, transportation, communications, and other industries, to the expertise of banks and financing players, to thriving new categories of investment funds, and to strong support by the public authorities, as evidenced by the investment priorities of the government's new recovery plan. The Paris marketplace has risen to these new challenges, and we are ready for Brexit, and we are happy to now have the extended operations of international investment banks, such as Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan, as well as asset management firms, over 30 of which have settled new activities here. As you know, I always thought that Brexit was a very, very bad idea. I personally consider that Brexit is a tragedy for Europe. But it is there. We have to cope with that, and we have to do the best without Great Britain. So 4,000 direct jobs have already been announced in Paris, and there should be a total of about 20,000 jobs altogether, both direct and indirect. And because of Brexit, Paris is clearly where financial operations relocate in Europe. According to a recent survey from the new financial think tank, capital markets activities will accelerate in Europe in the coming years, and on the other side of the Brexit, France will be the largest market in the EU 27, with an overall share of 23% of activity, ahead of Germany on 21%. So Paris will attract the major part of this acceleration and will consolidate its position as the leading banking and capital markets center for the EU 27. As far as Europe is concerned, we are aware of the fears that may have existed at the outset of the crisis in April about the lack of European unity and its alleged inability to weather the storm. But at the contrary, the crisis has been a spark, a catalyst that has given strength to Europe with the action of the European Central Bank, with, on the one hand, 3 trillion euros in loans channeled to banks, and on the other, a massive bond buyback program amounting to 1,350 billion euros aimed at stabilizing the financial markets. Christine Lagarde will address this afternoon and also tell us about the ECB monetary policy review, which we would like to be involved in. Moreover, substantial investment programs have been unleashed by the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund. More recently, the ambitious plan called Next Generation EU that was presented in early September by European Union President Ursula von der Leyen covers two additional aspects. On the one hand, the most significant European budget recovery plan since the inception of Europe, 750 billion euros, aimed at supporting recovery and growth while enhancing the position of the euro through new financing raised on the financial markets. On the other hand, the launch of the Recovery and Resilience Facility in order to foster investment capabilities and reforms, so as to drive Europe to a vantage position in the green and digital industries. And in her State of the Union address on September the 16th, Mrs. von der Leyen confirmed that she was standing by the reforms she announced when she took office with the European Green Pact, as well as new announcements in the areas of healthcare, economic stimulus, and employment. Today, Europe is demonstrating that it is an essential part of the solution to the crisis. To conclude, I would mention the next steps for Paris EUROPLACE vis-à-vis Europe, which are the following. The first one is to consolidate our European commitment in order to enhance the competitiveness of the European Union. Less over-regulation, more innovation, bringing about a real international level playing field, and finally, consistency amongst public policies and actions. Second, mobilize private financing. According to the European Commission, 1,500 billion euros in additional public and private investment will be required in 2021 and 2022 to drive a lasting recovery. Financial markets alone are in position to mobilize and convert sufficient amounts of private savings to meet the daunting requirements we face. In order to be efficient and effective, those financial markets require genuine financial integration, the Capital Markets Union. It is worth pointing out that the ECB itself has just underscored how important that was. A new action plan has been announced last September the 24th by the European Commission. The mobilization of the European political bodies at the highest level is absolutely necessary, and a more holistic approach needs to be put in place on European level to avoid that some directives contradict the objective of financing the economy, like it is the case today with the capital requirements for the institutional investors edicted by the Solvency II directive, or the impact of MiFID on the access of SMEs to equity market, which both should be reviewed. Finally, the recovery of the economy requires new structural orientations. We must imagine new responses for tomorrow's world, namely by advocating responsible investments and sustainable growth, and using this crisis as an opportunity to transform our economies by accelerating innovation and establishing strategic industries in Europe in order to preserve our European independence and sovereignty, perhaps, in the global economy. I would like to thank John Berrigan, the Director General of the Directorate General for Financial Stability, Financial Services and Capital Market Union, for elaborating on these items in our third plenary session. Such are our priorities, and the construction of a strong financial industry is a key feature for the response to the crisis, which will make it possible to bring about European recovery as fast and as vigorously as possible. As I told it in a newspaper this morning, in 2008, finance was a problem. in 2020, we hope that finance will be a part of the solution. But our duty altogether is to create conditions of the sovereignty of Europe, and I guess that with Germany, because nothing is possible in Europe without Germany, and if you add France and Germany, you have a market share in the financial European market of 44%, which means it is absolutely dominant. So I think that with Germany, we have a huge field to cover to create conditions of European independence. So now it's with a great pleasure that I will give the floor, albeit virtually, to Christine Lagarde, the President of the European Central Bank, who accepts to make an intervention by video. Thank you for your attention.